We're back. The Flow Friday Night Sports Show continues on. And Flow, man, it's time to talk basketball. There's a lot going on both at home and abroad at the moment on the basketball court.
Yes, the man that has got it all summed up is Dan Crouch. And I know that NBA, some real interest there. But we've got some NBL too to talk to him about, including a very, very big story with one of our players and some legal issues that could be facing him. But let's get Dan Crouch on the line. G'day, Dan. How are you?
Good, thank you, Flo, man. Thanks for having me, as always.
Excellent, good to have you on board. And let's start, before we get to that NBL detail, in particular Mitch Creek's assault allegations. We will come back to it, but NBA trade deadline is next week, and it will impact several players and teams. What are you hearing, Dan?
Well, every year we get to the trade deadline and there's a million rumours flying around, and some years you see about 10, 15, 20 trades on that last day, and some years you only see one or two, but this year's shaping up as being a pretty busy one. There's been quite a few rumours flying around, and just yesterday, one of the first chips actually did fall when PJ Tucker was traded from Houston to the Milwaukee Bucks, which is a huge coup for Milwaukee. He's obviously an elite defender and three-point shooter. Hasn't been playing well this year, but I think the change of scenery, going from a tanking Houston team to a really strong Milwaukee team, is going to do him a world of good, and I think it's going to do Milwaukee a world of good. So that trade, a lot of contenders were after him, and now that's done, I think a few more are going to start to fall.
Yeah, with the Nets being above Milwaukee and the 76ers just two teams above the Bucks, they stand a real chance with a bit of extra talent coming off in that three-point to capability. If they can pick up the extra couple of games in the Eastern Conference, they put themselves right in the mix in a playoff context. But let's go to some of the other trades that have been rumoured, and this one is one that we'll know a bit. Lonzo Ball and the New Orleans Pelicans. No Pelican there.
No. Obviously, his father, LeVar Ball, was a bit of a loudmouth back when Lonzo first got drafted, talking about how he was a better player than Steph Curry and he could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one and all this sort of rubbish. And Lonzo's having a nice career and he's having a really good season, really improved his three-point shot. He's a good fit next to Zion Williamson. But LeVar's come out today and said, after a few rumours throughout the year that he may get traded, he was looking a bit more settled, but LeVar said today that he basically doesn't belong there and he wants to be somewhere else. So that's one of the really interesting ones to watch, and I think the New York Knicks may be one of the top contenders to trade for him. They're needing a really good playmaker and defensive point guard, so they can get that in Lonzo Ball, and they can keep going on their playoff push if they get him, and he's a good piece for the future as well. So a lot of things to like there if the Knicks were to pull that trade. But, yeah, Lonzo's one of the big young names to look out for.
All right. What about some other names that you're hearing being thrown up for trade at the moment? And who's buying, who's selling? What's the buzz?
Well, I mentioned the Rockets with PJ Tucker. They are in full tank mode. I think they're up to 18 straight losses. They've got their first-round draft pick, top 4 protected. So it is crucial that they lose as many games as they can. So Victor Oladipo, who was the main piece along with a bunch of first-round draft picks in the James Harden trade, Oladipo is expiring at the end of the year. He wants to be in Miami. Houston want to get value for him. The issue is he has the option of just walking to Miami at the end of the season if they don't trade him. So Miami may not want to give up any of their young assets in order to get him right now, but it may benefit them short term because they want to make a strong finals push again this year after getting to the finals last year. So Houston and Oladipo is a big one. They've got a few other players, Sterling Brown, David Nwaba, Ben McLemore, gaining some traction. So they'll lean really hard into that tank, I think, and they'll be giving up anything of any value. And as for Miami, they're one of the teams really looking to buy, and Oladipo is the main name that's been going around for them. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens between those two teams especially.
Oh, I tell you what, Dan the man, he's just said the Houston Rockets should keep on losing after 18 straight losses, and it's in their interest to do so. I mean, Dan, this is tanking at its worst.
It is. And
everyone's fine with it.
Yeah, the reality is the NBA is a league where tanking gets rewarded and tanking matters. We saw Philadelphia's trust the process era a few years ago, which got them not just Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, but all the trade assets that they turned into. Tobias Harris is still on the team, as well as Jimmy Butler, who only lasted on the team for half a season before he went to Miami. But tanking works, and for Houston, in a position where they only get their pick if it falls in the top 4, they really don't have a choice. So, as a Houston fan, it's hard to say it after so many years of winning a lot of games, but I'm looking for lots of losses every night for Houston.
All right, what about some of the other top contenders before we move over to the NBL? The Lakers should be in the market. They need some backup. They've got plenty of star power, but not a lot of depth. The 76ers, of course, are in the market. Yeah. Is there anyone that we can link to them?
The 76ers were linked to Kyle Lowry not long ago, but the Toronto Raptors have said that they're not going to trade Lowry now after a bit of speculation. So it'll be interesting to see who they do go after, but they struck out on James Harden by not wanting to trade Ben Simmons. They didn't manage to get PJ Tucker, who could have been a really good fit for them. So, yeah, there'll be an interesting one. The Nets obviously did get James Harden. They've also brought in Blake Griffin. They've been really active, but all reports are that they still want to make more moves. They've got Spencer Dinwiddie, who's out for the season injured, but holds a lot of trade value still. So if they want to make a push for this year, they've got him to trade. The Clippers are on the slide. The Jazz are on the slide. Both of them may look to upgrade. They've got some draft picks and some assets to use. The Miami Heat, I think, are the really interesting one. I think they've just got lots of young players. They've got lots of draft picks, lots of assets, and, a lot of avenues to improving. So we'll monitor that situation. And then the last really big one, I think, is the San Antonio Spurs, who they've got a youth movement going. They're not looking to win the championship just yet, but they've got a couple of older guys who are looking to go and win a ring somewhere, and they've already parted ways with LaMarcus Aldridge. No trade's been found yet, but Aldridge isn't playing for the Spurs anymore, and he's going to be a very valuable piece, maybe for someone like Boston, who are seeking a bit of protection, a bit of a stretch 5. So, he's going to be a really interesting one to watch. And Portland, his former team, are actually one of the other ones in the market for him, with the injury to Yusuf Nurkic sidelining him for probably the rest of the year.
All right, now, Dan the Man, after your earlier comments about getting a loss, the big match is obviously tomorrow, where the Pistons look like they're going to get firing and put pay to the Rockets.
Yeah, another loss hopefully for the Rockets.
They're going to have to try super hard to lose that one, mate.
Yeah, the Pistons, they need to get below them in the standings. So it's actually a really big game there for whoever's going to lose that one.
This could be a 0-0 draw. There literally may be. It could be negative scores. They might try and goaltend each other the way things are looking.
I reckon the case. All right, Dan, we've got some NBL on the go. Let's get to the local competition and tell me about how you see this situation with the allegations against Mitch Creek.
Yeah, huge situation. Obviously, the allegations against him are that of a domestic violence nature, I believe, or a nature in which he assaulted a woman, which is obviously never acceptable, and it's sickening to have to report that. But that's the situation, and the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix have stood him down indefinitely, which is a really mature and professional approach to take. We've seen Jordan De Goey playing for Collingwood with similar allegations hanging over his head, so maybe they could learn a thing or two from this. But it's an absolute bummer for the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, he's their star player. Not that in a matter this serious, you hate to talk about his basketball, but the reality is he's been one of the best players in the league this year. 21 points, 7 rebounds, 3.5 assists, shooting 56% from the field and 51% from deep. He's been arguably the MVP for a really strong team, and it completely ruins the team season, completely puts his future in jeopardy. And the further reality is that it may ruin his chances at going to the Olympics this year. He would have had to be very, very much in the frame of getting selected and being on a team that could really push for a medal. So obviously we can't speculate too much on the allegations themselves. We don't know what happened or what's being said in court. yeah, I think it's the right approach from the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix to keep him out. And it's obviously really, really hurting his career. So we'll just have to see what happens next and how it plays out. But I think so far the correct decisions are being made by the NBL and the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. So we'll just keep an eye on it.
Jeez, I tell you what, Flo, man, I don't know what's being cooked up in that kitchen at the moment, but it smells. We'll get back to that in a minute. Very, very, very quickly, because we're out of time, Dan. Some big games this weekend. I tell you what, it's a big weekend for the Adelaide 36ers. They have that Southeast Melbourne Magic. I call them the Magic. They're the Phoenix these days.
Yes.
Get it right. They play them, I think, tonight. They must win that. They've got 3 games over the next week, and if they can win all 3, they'll be knocking on the door of the top 4 again.
Yeah, they're still, you wouldn't think they're a finals team, a playoffs team, whatever we call it down here, but with a winnable game all of a sudden tonight, maybe they can knock on the door, and Southeast Melbourne obviously now are a candidate to completely slide out of the playoff picture, sitting at 9 and 7, a couple of games ahead of the Sixers. So see how that happens. And up the top of the standings, Melbourne United need to get a wriggle on. They've gone from being 9-0 a couple of weeks ago to now 10-4. So their grasp on top spot is all but gone, with the Wildcats just 1 win behind them, having played 1 fewer game. So, some big games coming up, and we'll see how it all plays out.
Are you smelling that as well?
Yeah, I am. Dan, I'm going to have to close it off there, because the Flow Man's heading out to the kitchen to find out what's going on out there.
Oh, get out of it. Are you seriously going to leave me in here by myself?
I am, but I'm going to leave Dan too, who's done a great job on the report for NBL and NBA. We'll look forward to catching up with you next week on the final show for the summer series.
Looking forward to it, fellas. Enjoy that kitchen, Flow Man, and enjoy that studio, Jason.